This evening, government and the National Insurance Scheme is urging employers to be compliant with their NIS payments. In the safety of their own home, a Parfaithe Harmon family was tied, robbed, and beaten. Tucville primary and secondary school parents protest unsafe learning environments. In the region, Colombia's election, massive rallies mark campaign end, and internationally, China warns the US over Taiwan. Greetings and welcome to another edition of Channel 2 Headline News Update. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. The government and the National Insurance Scheme are urging employers to make their NIS payments in time, as the service explains.
Senior Minister within the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, is urging employers to get their house in order as it relates to the compliance of the National Insurance Scheme. Speaking on Saturday during an outreach facilitated by NIS at Enterprise East Coast, Darara, Dr. Singh said the following plans to improve and modernize every institution of the state focused on being placed on NIS. He noted that the primary source of health insurance and Social Security and other contributory pension for a majority of Guyanese. Minister Singh stated that the government is now working with NIS Board of Directors and Management to improve its services. However, many of the problems are due to employers' non-compliance.
So my call to employers out there is to ensure that you put your houses in order in relation to compliance with the law as it relates to NIS for your employees. There are certain particular categories of companies. I don't want to name them here, but there are certain categories of companies that have a lot of employees that are notorious for either non-deduction or late payment of deduction of payment to the NIS.
Minister Singh is urging employees to request annual contribution summaries from their employers, which are approved by NIS.
You uplift that statement, verify its accuracy, and resolve any inaccuracies that you might detect as early as possible. Do not wait until you are age 60 or age 62 to come and resolve queries that arose when you were age 25 or age 30. Because as time goes by, it becomes harder to resolve older problems.
Dr. Singh noted that late queries might be challenging to solve when people do not have records such as payslips, or some businesses may no longer be in operation. NIS Public Relations Officer Diane Lewis-Bachter noted that the outreaches held in various parts of the country would help solve many outstanding issues.
We're seeking to address those persons who have challenges reaching NIS, maybe on a normal day-to-day basis, and those who have long outstanding matters that they feel dissatisfied with. After NIS would have made a decision, they probably went to tribunal, still not satisfied. They have the opportunity to come and have it reviewed again by the minister and the board of directors and of course general managers part of the team as well.
Meanwhile, NIS continues to hold these outreaches in various regions. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. The first 10 families to benefit from the government's low-income housing units at Prospect East Bank Demerara can now begin occupying their homes. Senior Housing Administration Officer Gayatri Ramawat presented the keys to the beneficiaries on Saturday, May 21st. The low-income flat units are valued at $5.5 million, inclusive of the cost of land. Each unit features 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a bath. Construction for 50 homes was undertaken by the Central Housing and Planning Authority. The keys for the additional units are expected to be handed over soon as the beneficiaries finalize the necessary documentation. A family of 4 from the Parfaithe Harmon West Bank Demerara were beaten, bounded, and robbed of millions of dollars in cash and valuables by 3 male bandits armed with guns on Sunday, May 22nd. Inquiries disclosed that around 8:45 p.m., the victims, 46-year-old Suresh Balram, 40-year-old Bibi Balram, and two female teenagers were confronted in the living room of the lower flat by three men armed with guns. The couple, who also runs a grocery store, was struck by the shooters, causing them to receive injuries and become fearful for their lives. The suspects held the family at gunpoint and demanded that they lay face down on the floor before binding their hands behind their backs. The perpetrators then ransacked the house and grocery shop before escaping with millions of dollars worth of cash, jewelry, and mobile phones, among other valuable items. Following the ordeal, the victims untied themselves and alerted the police. Bibi and Suresh Balram were taken to the West Demerara Hospital, treated and sent away. Investigations are in progress. Stick around after the break. Tucville primary and secondary school parents protest unsafe learning environments, and Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago strengthen economic ties. But before that, here's the Bridge Retraction schedule sponsored by Antique and Modern Concrete Molding Establishments.
In a world filled with copycats and ever-changing trends, make your property stand out with unique concrete moldings. Different, exquisite designs carefully handcrafted to suit your style, with various customizable and antique and modern designs made at our factory. Antique and Modern Molding Establishment. We make your property outstanding. We make and install all moldings anywhere in Guyana.
The best quality, affordable prices, on-the-spot quotes, and no hidden fees.
Call us or WhatsApp us at 684-5050 or email us at modernestab@gmail.com. Antique and Modern Molding Establishment, made to stand out.
At John Lewis Styles, we carry only first quality men's and women's clothing, footwear, and accessories. As authorized dealers, our items come directly from the manufacturing brands and are available in all sizes and colors. What we sell was never on display in another store. It's time you know the truth about what you buy. Come visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
They say that when it hits you, it hits you. A feeling so strong that it's impossible not to give in to a juicy piece of KFC. To feel elevated by the aroma and to free fall into its exciting flavor. Some call it love, attraction, desire. We call it KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
The Guyana Elections Commission GCOM is currently conducting a cycle of continuous registration. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by October 31, 2022 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. Where to register? Visit the registration office responsible for your area of residence to apply for registration. See Sunday Press for the locations of the registration offices. Registration offices are open from Monday to Friday, 8 to 18 hours, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 14 hours. The offices will be closed on holidays. This registration exercise will end on Sunday, May 29, 2022. For further information, contact GCOM on hotline numbers 225-5868, 225-5808, or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. With Ghana and Trinidad and Tobago making dynamic moves to strengthen collaborations in several areas, specifically agriculture, the possibility of establishing a ferry facility as an experiment to move people, goods and services between the two territories are being explored. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali made the announcement on Sunday during a joint press conference with Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley at State House. President Ali said he envisions an overwhelming impressive experience in the food sector, and the fact that CARICOM has established certain targets and time frame for achieving those demonstrates seriousness. He said the two CARICOM countries share a long and glorious history of working together, and efforts will continue in pushing the agenda, which will realize the aspirations of the two countries.
And I'm very confident that once we stick to the task that is before us, once our ministers of foreign affairs move together in a projectized manner, not a foreign affairs manner, but in a projectized manner, looking at the outcomes and working on the critical path, ensuring that wherever there is a slip on that critical path, the path is corrected. We can only achieve success.
Meanwhile, a memorandum of understanding was signed between Ghana and the Twin Islands earlier on Sunday, which targets non-tariff barriers and other hurdles to the flow of products and services, among other items. Teachers, parents, and students from the Tucville primary and secondary schools protested outside the Ministry of Education, hoping to have their voices heard in regards to complaints that the schools were hazardous for learning. As the Sobers has more.
We need it right now. When we need it right now. Tucville schools need attention. Tucville schools need attention.
Today, several teachers, parents, students, and Tucville Parent Teachers Association members met at the Georgetown Catholic Church to commence a protest against the Tucville school not being declared safe and free of several threats. The group headed to the Ministry of Education's building on Brick Dam in hope of capturing Priya Manichan, the Minister of Education, attention on this issue. According to one parent, this problem has been ongoing for several years with no solution.
It's been going on since then. My kids went there, and there's like 5 years or 7 years ago, but it wasn't so worse as how it is now. And since then, Mr. Bridgewater promised to do the flat level, and nothing have done since then. I think it's time to do it. Parent here have gotten shock from Tucville Secondary. We had to carry her to the hospital. We had to give her the money. The ministry never stepped in to do nothing. They never even called this parent to find out what's going on, how you're feeling, how you're making out, how you're surviving. Ministry just taking everything for a ride because it's black people children going there. Excuse me, because it's not an Indian. If it's QC, they don't fix it up before their children go to QC. The president said it's a one Guyana. It's supposed to do for everybody.
Teachers and parents have gathered in front of the school for the past months after people continue getting electric shocks due to faulty and exposed wiring. However, according to them, the Minister of Education has never reached out on the issue. The school's cleaner received an electric shock about 2 weeks ago. Because of the situation, the school had to close, and pupils had to travel to another school to write their grade 6 mock exams. Now the school is closed, and the children must take online classes, which has infuriated many parents.
Teacher will call and say, I can't do Zoom class today because the internet is bad. We all know the type of internet we get in Guyana. So many days we're going without actually having Zoom classes. So how long are we going to carry on with this same behavior? It's not only about that, but we also have the problem with the roof. We have the flooding in the school. Under the school itself, this flood Only God in heaven knows what they're under the school. We got teachers got to stand in water to teach. It's unfair. And we need to get this sorted out. We need to get this fixed.
It needs to be fixed.
They can't just be saying everything is okay with the school and not coming.
That's right.
If you're not coming to see for yourself, you cannot say that Tucville is good.
I am Tessa Williams. I resumed duty on the 11th when I was shocked. I was throwing out some water in a bucket. And when the water catch my feet, it started to run up the current. And I reported to the guard, the first person, that I get hit. And they take it for a joke. And I was taken to an outside doctor by Mr. Bristol and Mr. Peters with medication and 14 days leave.
And they still standing short medical bill up to now.
President of the PTA, Royston Peters, also spoke to our newscast. According to the PTA president, the Guyana Fire Service had recommended about 33 proposals to the Ministry of Education to address the electrical problem.
Last week and the week before, that there are issues affecting the Tucville schools, both primary and secondary. The issues range from electrical challenges to structural defects to issues with respect to drainage and flooding, and that has now presented a challenge for our youngsters being engaged face-to-face learning. Those are the four main premises on which we're contesting. Recently, the school was asked to recommence session, but as you know, there is no certificate given indicating the place is again safe for occupation. And up to last evening when we visited there are still some things that were shortlisted to be done that have not yet been completed. And so we're saying, we can't be in a space that is dangerous and unsafe, and that at the same time, we have to put in place some mechanism for youngsters to be engaged in face-to-face learning so they can continue having their education.
The parents and teachers request the Ministry of Education resolve the issues before resuming school. For Channel 2 Headline News, Esther Sobers.
Thanks, Esther. Today, the Civil Defense Commission confirmed reports of significant flooding in Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo Region 9. Due to the consistent rainfall in the area, water levels continue to rise from the deep south to the south Pacaraimans. Several communities and farms are inundated, resulting in the relocation of families. A shelter to house approximately 7 families has been established at Tabatinga Sports Complex in Letem. Impacted residents have transitioned to the facility today. Additionally, the CDC has activated its Regional Disaster Risk Management Center to serve as a secondary shelter to accommodate more displaced persons today. The CDC is also working with regional and municipal authorities to deliver water purification tablets, water containers, cleaning hampers, and other essential supplies. The Hydrometeorological Service forecasts significant and consistent rainfall countrywide for the next 24 hours. As such, the Commission, along with relevant agencies, are monitoring all administrative regions. Residents of low-lying, flooded, and flood-prone areas are urged to be vigilant and take precautions. The National Emergency Monitoring System can be contacted 24 hours a day at 600-7500 or 226-1114 to report any impacts. Don't go away after the break. China warns US over Taiwan, and Sri Lanka's economic crisis leads to essential drug shortages.
The Guyana Elections Commission GCOM is currently conducting a cycle of continuous registration. Anyone who will be 14 years or older by October 31, 2022 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. It is your civic duty and legal responsibility to apply for registration if you are eligible. When you do, you would be issued a national ID card and be listed to vote at future elections if you meet other eligibility criteria. Persons could be fined or sent to prison for refusing to apply for registration. Registration will end on May 29, 2022. For further information, please contact GCOM on hotline numbers 225-5868, 225-5808, or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
The Guyana Elections Commission GCOM is currently conducting a cycle of continuous registration. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by October 31, 2022 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. Eligible persons can apply for new registration if you were never registered, name change if you have changed your name since you were registered, correction if registration information is incorrect, and transfer if you have changed your address since you were registered. See Sunday Press for more details. This registration exercise will end on Sunday, May 29, 2022. For further information, contact GCOM on hotline numbers 225-5868, 225-5808, or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at news in the region and around the world. In Colombia, campaign rallies for leading presidential candidates have ended. Opinion polls suggest leftist Gustavo Petro is the frontrunner. He is promising to phase out fossil fuels in a country where oil still accounts for a third of foreign revenues. Al Jazeera's Alessandro Rampietti reports.
Tens of thousands gathered in Bogotá for the last campaign event for presidential frontrunner Gustavo Petro. The former member of the M19 guerrilla movement, who may become Colombia's first leftist leader, spoke behind a bulletproof lectern flanked by men holding ballistic shields. He promised a new era.
We can't continue with these inequalities, the lack of rights and liberties, with the permanent exclusion of the majority of our people. We can't continue in this eternal and infinite violence that seems to devour our entire society.
Many are hungry for change after decades of mostly conservative rule in what remains one of the most unequal and violent countries in South America. Petro's ambitious plans to move away from a dependency on fossil fuels, cracking down on corruption and promising a minimum wage has polarized the country.
Petro has many good ideas. He wants to help us with education and give more opportunities to our farmers. It's what we need. We are tired of importing things from other places when we are rich here.
Petro is leading the polls with an expected 40% of the vote, but that's probably not enough to avoid a runoff. His main challenger, center-right former Medellin mayor Federico Gutiérrez, is at about 23%. He's struggling to be seen as a voice of change, given he's supported by all traditional parties. And in his hometown, he made a call for unity.
There are people who want to divide the country, people who continue sowing hatred. While they continue spreading hate, we insist on spreading love. And while they talk about burning candidates, just as they burned buildings and judges in the past, we talk about building. We are going to move Colombia forward together.
The wild card in the race is 77-year-old populist entrepreneur and anti-corruption crusader Rodolfo Hernández. His recent rise in the polls has surprised many, opening up what had largely been a two-horse race.
Petro's base believes his presidency will be inevitable at this point, but unless he manages an outright win next Sunday, he will probably face a tight runoff on June 19th, in a country that's searching for change but remains deeply divided by its candidacy. Alessandro Ampietti, Al Jazeera, Bogotá.
Internationally, China has warned the US president not to underestimate Beijing's resolve on Taiwan. Joe Biden said he'd intervene militarily to defend the island from any invasion. Al Jazeera's Rob McBride reports.
President Joe Biden came to Japan to bolster one of the US's most important alliances in the Asia-Pacific at a time of multiple challenges across the region. But he may have worsened one of those regional flashpoints with less than tactful answers at the main news conference, as he's done in the past. It came in response to a question about whether the US would respond militarily to a Chinese invasion to take the island of Taiwan that Beijing regards as a breakaway territory.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are.
That's the commitment we made.
The US stance on Taiwan has been far more ambiguous in the past, and the White House immediately had to release a statement trying to clarify the US position. But what sounded like a threat to China brought this response.
The Taiwan issue is purely China's internal affair, which won't stand for any foreign interference. Issues bearing on China's core interests, including the sovereignty and territorial integrity, there is no room for compromise or concession. No one should underestimate the Chinese people's firm resolution.
This has turned into something of a distraction in what is meant to be a strong show of unity against Russian aggression and also against increasing military threats from China, as well as increased missile testing from North Korea. As the only nation to have been subjected to an atomic attack, Japan is deeply concerned by North Korea's development of its nuclear arsenal, but it's also troubled by the increasing assertiveness of China, with ongoing territorial disputes in the East China Sea.
As a major power, China has significant responsibilities, also in the economic field, to live up to that responsibility. I think it is important for Japan to work with the United States to encourage China to fulfill its responsibilities in accordance with international rules. I think such attitudes are important.
Biden has also used the trip to launch the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, an initiative aimed at safeguarding and developing production of critical commodities like advanced semiconductors and setting universal standards for labor and environmental protection.
It's very, very clear that from America's perspective, China is now the biggest competitor on all fronts. And as a result of that, what America is doing now is building alliances across the world.
This visit will culminate in a summit meeting of the leaders of the so-called Quad Security Alliance, led by the US and seen as a further attempt to constrain China militarily in the region. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Tokyo.
And finally, Sri Lanka's economic crisis is leading to a critical shortage of essential drugs and could lead to the death of cancer patients, according to doctors there. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith reports.
For many patients at Sri Lanka's main cancer hospital, the recent economic crisis has become a matter of life or death. 80% of medical supplies are imported, but there's hardly any foreign currency to pay for them.
If you are in a queue for fuel, ultimately the people will lose the fuel. If they are in the queue for the gas, ultimately they lose the gas. But If patients are on queue for the drugs, they will lose their life.
Doctors at the hospital say they've been forced to suspend tests and postpone procedures and even critical surgeries.
Our lives are at risk. Because of that, we are always living in fear. We don't know whether we will have medicines or not.
The hospital is short of injections for dialysis patients, some cancer drugs and medicines for people who have had organ transplants. Foreign donors, including Japan and India, are helping, but it'll take 2 to 4 months for the drugs to arrive. Much of the blame for Sri Lanka's economic collapse is being laid at the feet of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He's on the right here, swearing in new ministers. Under his family, Sri Lanka borrowed heavily to fund a large bureaucracy and military and vanity construction projects. Elder brother Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned as Prime Minister after nationwide protests. In his place, Ranil Wickremesinghe has been appointed, tasked with forming a unity government. Wickremesinghe said that when the Rajapaksas returned to power in 2019, there was $7.5 billion in foreign reserves. Now, the government says there's nearly nothing left. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2 Headline News Updates. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.